Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. Today we're discussing ghost plots. You might not be too surprised to hear that Rowling, who wrote the 7 Harry Potter books in a 10-year time span, generated a fair bit of information, storylines, plots, characters, that simply never made it into the final versions of the beloved books. And in time, these secondary pieces of information have come to be known as ghost plots. Over the 17 years that I planned and wrote the 7 Harry Potter books, I generated a mass of information about the magical world that never appeared in the books. I liked knowing these things, which was fortunate given that I couldn't stop my imagination spewing it all out, and often, when I needed a throwaway detail, I had it ready because of the background I developed. I also found myself developing storylines for secondary or even tertiary characters that were superfluous to requirements. More of a wrench for the plots I worked out for some much more important characters that had to be sacrificed for the bigger story. All of these I inwardly termed ghost plots, my private expression for all the untold stories that sometimes seemed quite as real to me as the final cut. But what you may be surprised to hear is that a lot of these detailed plot lines and characters have since been exposed by Rowling. It's been 27 years since the first book came out, so I guess it was bound to happen eventually. Anyway, today we're going to be taking a closer look at some of these ghost plots, examining the Harry Potter story in a completely new light. I'm going to cover 10 today, and if you like this series, then I'll keep making them. Just let me know in the comments. Let's dive in. TriWizard Tournament's tasks. The TriWizard Tournament is pretty well documented in the Harry Potter story, and is the main focal point of the 4th book. It's a prestigious event held between 3 of the prominent wizarding schools, Hogwarts, Beauxbaton, and Durmstrang. The tournament consists of 3 tasks, each designed to test the champion's magical prowess, intelligence, bravery, and problem-solving skills. The nature of the tasks varies, ranging from facing dangerous creatures or overcoming obstacles to solving complex puzzles. However, what you probably didn't know is that the original concept was to have 4 tasks, each representing the classical elements of earth, air, fire, and water. Because Rowling found it too difficult to conceive a task for all 4, she ended up combining air and fire into a single task involving dragons. The lake task represented water, and the maze task represented earth. Chamber of Secrets was going to be Half-Blood Prince. While working on the Chamber of Secrets, J.K. Rowling originally intended to include the entire storyline about Harry finding the Half-Blood Prince's textbook. This other storyline would have occurred alongside the existing storyline about the Chamber of Secrets. However, Rowling later decided that the 2 storylines didn't mesh, and therefore determined that the Half-Blood Prince storyline would be saved for a later book. Interestingly though, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince was the Chamber of Secrets' original working title. Vampire Professor at Hogwarts. Before Harry, during Harry's time, and after Harry, there were many well-known professors at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. But what you probably didn't know is that Harry was originally supposed to have a vampire professor who went by the name Trokar. However, J.K. Rowling later scrapped the idea entirely. Although vampires exist in the world of Harry Potter, as shown by the literature that Harry and his friends study in Defense Against the Dark Arts, they play no meaningful part in the story. The vampire myth is so rich, and has been exploited so many times in literature and on film, that I felt there was little I could add to the tradition. Malfoy and Not, the deleted chapter. For the Chamber of Secrets, Rowling had initially written a chapter titled Malfoy and Not that depicted a meeting between the Nots and the Malfoys. In the chapter, Not visited Malfoy Manor with his son, and they engaged in discussions related to the activities and beliefs of the Death Eaters. Meanwhile, Draco and Theodore had a conversation in the garden about Dumbledore, Harry, and the story surrounding the boy who lived. Rowling intended for this chapter to explore Draco's perspective and show him recognizing another person as his equal. Both Draco and Theodore were portrayed as skilled students and hailed from wealthy and influential families. Rowling was particularly fond of this chapter, but ultimately had to remove it from the book as it felt out of place. She also later attempted to incorporate this chapter into the 4th book of the series, but ultimately decided to abandon it. The importance of Dean Thomas. Remember Dean Thomas? Well, as it turns out, Dean's character was originally planned to be a cousin of Ron's named Gary. Dean Thomas was called Gary in the first draft of Philosopher's Stone. I renamed him after a boy I knew. Gary would have taken on a significant role similar to that of Neville Longbottom, and would have accompanied the trio, along with Neville, when they encountered Fluffy. Additionally, Gary was intended to have a unique subplot. His biological father was a wizard who was tragically killed for resisting Voldemort's recruitment efforts. Dean's mother, however, believed that his father had simply abandoned them. While this backstory is briefly referenced in Book 7, Rowling ultimately decided to discard most of these details in favour of expanding Neville Longbottom's narrative, which was further intertwined with Harry's journey. Dumbledore's extra lines in The Half-Blood Prince. In the initial American release of The Half-Blood Prince, there were additional lines in which Dumbledore provided further explanation about his plan to protect the Malfoy family from Voldemort. However, these lines were not present in the British edition or subsequent reprints of the American edition. It is speculated that J.K. Rowling made revisions to Dumbledore's explanation in a later draft, and the original American edition accidentally included an earlier version of the scene. The extra lines in question involved Dumbledore outlining the strategy to make it appear as though the Malfoys had been murdered by members of the Order. This deception would be convincing to the Death Eaters, as it aligned with their own tendencies. The passage in question can be found in the chapter entitled The Lightning-Struck Tower. Here is the UK and original US version. UK version. Come over to the right side, Draco, and we can hide you more completely than you can possibly imagine. What is more, I can send members of the Order to your mother tonight to hide her likewise. Your father is safe at the moment in Azkaban. When the time comes, we can protect him too. Come over to the right side, Draco. You are not a killer. US version. He cannot kill you if you are already dead. Come over to the right side, Draco, and we can hide you more completely than you can possibly imagine. What is more, I can send members of the Order to your mother tonight to hide her likewise. Nobody would be surprised that you had died in your attempt to kill me. Forgive me, but Lord Voldemort probably expects it. Nor would the Death Eaters be surprised that we had captured and killed your mother. It is what they would do themselves, after all. Your father is safe at the moment in Azkaban. When the time comes, we can protect him too. Come over to the right side, Draco. You are not a killer. No Grangers or Malfoys. You heard me. Hermione Granger and her family were originally supposed to be the Puckles. Similarly, Draco Malfoy and his family were originally going to go by the surname Spungen, Smart, or Spinks. I'm not quite sure these names would have been as effective. Early Rita Skita. In an early draft of the Philosopher's Stone, Rita Skita was originally intended to be one of the characters whom Harry encounters when he first arrives at the Leaky Cauldron. In this iteration, she was instead referred to as Bridget. However, the decision was made to remove her character as it was causing delays in Harry's journey to Diagon Alley, and Rowling simply chose to explore Harry's fame in greater detail in future installments of the series. Later on, when Rita Skeeter made her proper appearance, J.K. Rowling revealed that the character had been heavily influenced by the journalist she'd encounter since her own rise to fame. Nearly Headless Nick's song. In an early draft of the Chamber of Secrets, the Hogwarts ghost Nearly Headless Nick recites a song explaining in full detail how he was nearly beheaded and why it happened. The song is aptly named The Ballad of Nearly Headless Nick. Penelope Clearwater. Penelope Clearwater, a Ravenclaw student and prefect that dated Percy, was said to have been a 5th year in early printings, making her a year younger than Percy. However, Rowling later decided to make her a 6th year. And that's it for this video. If you want more ghost plots, let me know down in the comment section below. Also, if you enjoy the content, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, remember, it does not do to dwell on dreams and to forget to live.